Shamrock Energy, third episode. This is the third edition of Shamrock Energy. Like, subscribe, comment, do whatever you gotta do. I don't care. I'm doing it for the love of the game and the love of Notre Dame. Let's fucking rock and roll, baby. I'm saying this shit unfiltered today. Don't care if the video gets monetized or not. It probably won't even get more than 100 views anyways, right? The last video, we set a new record. I think it was 56 views. Pretty impressive stuff. I think that you guys were really vibing to that. Got one like, probably from a bot. Well, let's see if we could switch it up. Let's put it on the table. All right, we're diving in, and we're about to start here in the next month or so. We got 6 weeks to wait, and the wait has been agonizing until fall camp. We're going to get little tidbits of information that come out from, the fall workouts or summer workouts. There'll be some intel that drops out there, and we're going to get a little taste of what this team's really about. We got a nice tease during spring ball. I think that we could all agree there were some really good things. There's some things that we're going to keep an eye on, some position battles. But I think that today what we really need to focus on more than anything is we need to have a conversation. We need to have a conversation about the elephant in the motherfucking room. What is this? What is this conversation about? What are we going to talk about? My fanhood started in 2005. The first, legitimate game that I watched that had high stakes was Notre Dame versus USC. Some people close to me understand that I was kind of split in time. I was like a hybrid employee, right? I was watching Rocket Power the same time that the game was going on. I regret it. It's something that I'm never going to live down. I understand. I'm a better man for it, though. Better man for it. I watched the end of the game. I watched the majority of the football game as well. Just understand that was a different time and a different me. But that's when my fanhood started, okay? And one of the biggest issues that always comes up, and we don't really talk about it much at this time of year, is how Notre Dame performs in the big games. And I think that we could all easily say, if we're being honest with ourselves, is that Notre Dame does not play well in the big games. They haven't played well in the big games in a long, long time. And it hasn't really changed as Marcus Freeman has taken over as head coach at Notre Dame. And it's something I really want to focus on today. There will be a time and a place for us to go over the depth of this team, to go over the coordinator duo between Denbrock and Golden, and how on paper it's probably the best coordinator duo in the country. We could talk recruiting and kind of the momentum that's building there, and all the little storylines and all that. There's a time and a place for it, but that is not what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about the difference of Notre Dame now versus what Notre Dame was. And I'm going to play a clip here. I'm going to play it real quick, and I'm going to shut up. It's like a 2-minute clip from Notre Dame versus Florida State, 1993.
Let's go down to John Dockery.
We've heard before, these two teams are within inches of each other. Notre Dame came out early to watch Florida State head towards the field. Now both teams are lingering in the tunnel. They're posturing at one another. They're pointing at one another. You see the Florida State guys. Bobby Bowden is right in front of me, and he's trying to push his team out. Lou Holtz is restraining his team. But I'll tell you, the tension between these two is real and powerful and explosive. And it looks like the moment passed and there was no explosion. Back to you, Charlie.
And the sellout crowd here at Notre Dame Stadium as they greet the number one team in the country, the Seminoles of Florida State. And now the shine of the golden helmets as they come out of the tunnel. Underneath the goalpost, they will await their leader, Lou Holtz. They will break on his call. The number 2 team in the country, Notre Dame.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. A lot to unpack in just that clip. And notice, I'm not showing any film of the game. I'm showing what happens before kickoff. And I'll tell you, there's a lot that stands out to me, and I bet you all feel the same way. By the way, just advance warning, we've had like 5 power surges today in Austin, Texas. It's bullshit. If the lights go off, I'm not stopping this video. We're getting through it. We're overcoming adversity, baby. Let's ride. So, back to the original point at hand. Some things stand out. One is that team is ready to fucking play. Okay, I have not seen a Notre Dame team in my fanhood look that ready to play a game. I haven't seen it. I'd venture to say a lot of us haven't seen it, man. Those Holtz teams were ready to play in the big moments, and it goes back to what Lou Holtz has actually said about big games. And it doesn't matter who's playing. It doesn't matter who's playing. There is a point in the game where one team flinches and the other team doesn't. And the team that doesn't flinch obviously ends up winning, right? And you could tell in that game, there was not a shadow of a doubt that Notre Dame's winning that game. That's against Charlie Ward, the Heisman Trophy winner. He was anointed the Heisman Trophy winner right then before that game. He could have fucking snapped his knee and still won the Heisman Trophy. That's how good Charlie Ward was that year. That's how clear of a runaway it was. I mean, really special talent. You got Derek Brooks on the other side of the ball, too. And I'm just naming, like, kind of the main players here. You got Derek Brooks on the other side of the ball, who, in my opinion, if he didn't tragically die in a car accident, he's the next Lawrence Taylor. And there ain't going to be anybody that touches him on the stat line. There ain't going to be anybody that touches him in the record books. That's how good Derek Brooks was, in my opinion. It is my opinion. I'm just saying. That's how I feel about it. That team, Florida State, revolutionized the way that offense was played. They called it the fast break offense. Notre Dame's still running this 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Our guys are better than your guys. We're going to beat you. We're going to lean on you, and we're going to beat you physically. But we're also going to have the mental edge, and you could feel it. You could feel it in that clip. And it kind of makes me think about a time that Notre Dame has ever done that in my fanhood. And I can't think of one. Not in a big moment. Nope. And we could go back to 2005, but I'm not going to. I'm going to keep it very recent. I call the modern era for Notre Dame 2017 to present. Okay, so we could just stick with that, right? 2017, you piss down your leg against Miami. You flinch. You flinch hard. You are not mentally prepared to play in the slightest, right? You know, we go to that, all right, 2017, that, you know, you also drop a game to Georgia, who ends up going on to the playoffs and doing some really special things. You lose that game, right? Then you have this run, piss down your leg against Miami. 2018. Probably the best overall team that I've seen in my fanhood, I would say. I mean, there's room for debate. 2017 is probably better, but 2018 produced, right? And then you get to the Clemson game, and there's zero margin for error. You're up against Trevor Lawrence. You flinch. You flinch because you're really the guy who should win the Jim Thorpe Award, who actually might have won the Jim Thorpe Award. Like I said, I'm not pulling anything up here. I'm just going off my head. I'm ranting. I'm fucking riffing. Let's ride. Julian Love, he pulls his hamstring, and then you're stuck with Dante Vaughn, and you pissed down your leg there. You get dominated against Clemson. And then you ask anybody on that Clemson team, they were scared of Notre Dame that year. They were more concerned about them than they were Alabama. If they could get past that, they're beating Bama, and that's exactly what happened. But Notre Dame, in typical Kelly fashion, they don't rise to the occasion. They don't rise to the occasion at all. They're not ready for the moment. The moment is too big for them. 2019, you go to Athens, and you really are a better team in a lot of ways than Georgia, but you're not ready to play. For whatever reason, you're just not ready to play. Your offense looks like shit. Ian Book is not progressing. He regresses as a quarterback. And you can't put the ball in the end zone when you get the ball back at midfield. You're not able to rise to the moment with guys like Chase Claypool. You know, I mean, it just wasn't going to happen with guys like Cole Kmet. So, okay, all right, you pissed on your leg there, and then we as fans have to pat Brian Kelly on the back because, well, we almost won. We were in the game the entire time. It's a bunch of bullshit is what that is. But it's been beat into our freaking skulls, you know, since Kelly got here. And we got jaded because of the Weiss years and the Willingham and Davey years that we just accepted that good enough was good enough, and we're going to accept that. And it's a bunch of bullshit, to be honest with you. We've completely forgot who we are. Well, let's keep going down the list. 2020, we kind of, whatever. Let's just throw that out. You beat Clemson when Trevor Lawrence isn't in because of a fucking fake virus. Okay, all right. Because of COVID. And that was probably one of Kelly's best coaching jobs, was 2020. To be able to keep that team engaged, to be able to win that Clemson game. All right, we're able to do that, but then you play Clemson, you play Trevor Lawrence again in the ACC championship, and what happens? Same old shit. You come off the bus, and it's a business trip. It's just another game. When it's not, it's the ACC championship. It's to punch your ticket, dude. It's to punch your ticket for a better seat so you don't have to play an insanely good Bama team. Well, you play Bama. Now you play Bama because you get dominated by Clemson. What happens? What was it? 14 to 31? Could have been freaking 52 to 17. Saban calls the dogs off. Man, him and Brian Kelly must get along. And that was it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. Because not only that, you kind of get through it. You cover the spread. That's great. You sort of look like you belong, but you don't. And you put together a game plan that was so conservative, it was so chicken shit to have to accept that with the players that team had. And all we do is the same old shit. 3-4 yards, cloud of dust. Let's try to put together a drive. Hey, this is just what we do. And it was just proof that Tommy Rees shouldn't have been an offensive coordinator at that time. And I mean that with zero disrespect. It's just the reality. He was too young for that moment. I'm sure Kelly had a lot of influence in that game plan, and it was far too conservative. The defense gives you a chance to win that game, as they have throughout this whole modern era from 2017 on. But you completely shit the bed in a national stage yet again. And we're subjected to Brian Kelly going up there and basically shitting on us having a standard of like, hey, listen, getting the shit kicked out of you by Alabama isn't going to cut it anymore. It's not enough just to be there. But for Kelly, it was. Then 2021 comes around. And this attitude that was so pervasive within the culture of Notre Dame, even with the fans, you go up against Cincinnati in your own home, you get bitch slapped. They talk shit about you all week long. All week long. Desmond Ridder comes in, and that game wasn't even fucking close. You get out-coached, you get out-prepared, you get outplayed, and it was an embarrassment. If the Bama game in 2020 wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back, that Cincinnati game should have been it. Because they weren't prepared in the slightest. It was, again, just another game. It's a business trip. Take care of business. They didn't take care of business. And that 2021 team, don't ever be fooled by Brian Kelly and his PR spin machine that came about after that. That team should have been way better than what it was. And the entire landscape was ripe for the picking. That was an opportunity for Notre Dame to win a title. I will never, ever, ever get off that hill. It is the truth. Notre Dame should have won a national championship that year, but you know what you ended up producing? You ended up producing one of the softest teams that I've ever seen against a soft schedule that lost one game, but could have lost so many more. If that schedule was even what it is in 2024, that's a 4-loss team. Bullshit. We had to accept that as well. And then, of course, you lose in OK State. I'm going to give a little bit of slack there for Freeman. But it's like this was an opportunity to win the Fiesta Bowl. It would have been huge. It would have been the first, major bowl game that Notre Dame had won since 1993, and they shit down their leg. You see what's happening? It's another power surge. It's been like 4 or 5, but I said we're going to keep rolling through it. We're not going to stop. I don't know what the deal is too, guys, by the way. I don't know if it's construction or what. Like, it's not even windy out. This is some bullshit. But the lights will turn back on yet again, much like the hopes for Notre Dame. So let's keep going. So 2022 then, it's Freeman's first year, and you lose against Marshall, Stanford, and then you start to understand something about Marcus Freeman. And you start to get a little feel for what his tenure is going to look like. And it's this, right now, what has been proven is that when Notre Dame's back is against the wall and when they're not expected to win, Oh, you see? All right, you got a lot of that, right? Like, that was like a bolt of light. We're back, baby. We're back. We ain't stopping. All right, so when the back is against their wall and when they're not expected to win, that team comes out and they beat the shit out of Clemson. They temporarily end the Clemson dynasty. The dynasty is over now for Clemson. They're going to have a good year this year. Dabo has a lot of buy-in there. I got a lot of respect for Dabo. I think that we could all kind of agree on that he gets his team ready to play. And there's a ton of buy-in with his culture that he has over there. The fans absolutely love him, and with good reason. He's built up a lot of cachet. Well, you know, they temporarily end that dynasty, and they're going to bounce back, but they're never going to be what they were before, where it's like they're expected to win titles year, or at least be in the big dance year in and year out. It ended, right? Okay. This brings us to the most recent and I think the most applicable point of what I'm trying to say. In Notre Dame flinching. Ohio State. It's one of the biggest home games that Notre Dame has had since, for me, it was the most anticipated home game for sure since 2005. And you go there and the energy is out of this world. Notre Dame showed up. The fans showed up. It wasn't a sea of red. The stage was set. Ohio State, they don't have C.J. Stroud anymore. You know, they got Kyle McCord, who really, if he wasn't a quarterback at Syracuse this year, he'd probably end up selling Subaru somewhere. And you know, it's like, okay, this is an opportunity. We've got one of the best secondaries in the country against one of the best receiving corps in the country with Marvin Harrison and the likes of many, many others. Ohio State's defense is real, and it was a battle. But there are critical moments that I've talked about that Lou Holtz brought up, and it's really this. Who's going to flinch? And Notre Dame flinched very early on, and it's that 4th and 1 call. It was the first possession that Notre Dame had. It was a long drive. Freeman believes in his guys. They make the call. 4th and 1, let's rock. Let's go for it. And I don't know if he got it or not. It looked like he did, but they overturned it. The point is that Sam Hartman didn't want it enough. Because if he wanted it enough, that's a clear first down. You don't even have to review it. You don't have to put it in the hands of the officiating crew. That game, I'm telling you, could have been over after that touchdown. But instead, they end up not capitalizing on it. And I don't know how exactly that ended, but it wasn't a touchdown. Oh, wait, no, obviously. Ohio State gets the ball back, right? So you leave empty-handed, and it just changed the entire dynamic of that game. You flinched. You fucking flinched yet again. Then Notre Dame battles back. And this is something that I'll say that is a little bit different, and it gives me reasons to be encouraged about Notre Dame moving forward under Freeman, is that team battled back. It wasn't like, we're just happy to be here and we're happy to make it close. Like, both teams got their hits. Both teams got their hits in. But, unfortunately, the coaching staff flinched. And it really has to do with Audric Estime is leaning on Ohio State's defense. You are handing the rock off to Audric Estime to do what Audric Estime is there to do. Ice the fucking game. Break Ohio State. Win this shit. The offensive line played better than they had all year, and you wasted that performance by switching Estime out, putting Love in, and then that doesn't go well. So then you go ahead. In fact, Hartman gets sacked, I think, because Love was in the game, and he was in a pass pro. So that's interesting. And then you throw a screen pass. You throw a fucking screen pass that gets tipped and could have gotten intercepted. If it was completed, that could have been a touchdown to Jadarian Price. But it didn't happen anyways. And it's because the coaching staff flinched. They choked. They shat down their leg. They pissed down their leg. They did every biological need down their leg because the moment was too big for them. You give the ball back to Ohio State. You got them backed up. It's 3rd and 18, first down, all the way to the freaking 5 or 4 or whatever. You're close to a touchdown. And then Al Washington, Marcus Freeman is ultimately going to have to take ownership for this. But Al Washington can't get his defensive line ready. and you got one defensive lineman missing. And if I swear, I'm gonna have to go back and watch this, but I swear it's a senior that's not on the field. Jordan Botelho has his head so far up his ass that he can't get ready for the biggest moment in that fucking game and the biggest moment of his career. He's nowhere to be seen. 10 players on the field, touchdown, Ohio State wins. Changes the trajectory of not just the season, but the landscape of college football. Notre Dame could have been a force to be reckoned with that year. I'll stand by it. The team had flaws. The team had flaws from a Jimmy's and Joe's perspective, and maybe even an X's and O's perspective when you talk about Jared Parker. But I'll tell you what that team absolutely showed is that team was soft. That team was soft. Matt Balis was sorely missed last year. He just was. And it's no disrespect to Fred Hale. There's a reason that Fred Hale's here, going into this year too. There's a lot of respect for him inside that building. And there's a lot of respect for him with the players. I'll take it if he's still there. Because that dude could have easily been tossed aside and discarded, but with Lauren Landau coming in, Fred Hale is still there. He still has his hands on the program. It's not disrespect to him. It's that Matt Balis, I don't think that team would have faded the way that they did after that Ohio State game, even though the scheduling was the dumbest thing possible. You play 8 straight games. You're playing the toughest part of your schedule all in a row, 3 games in a row. And, those 8 games are also compounded by the fact that, week 0, you play the first game in college football that year, and it's in Dublin, Ireland. It was a logistical nightmare. It was very, very difficult. But you know what, man? Lou Holtz wouldn't make that excuse, and neither does Marcus Freeman. I can make the excuse because I'm a fan. But to be honest with you, when you boil it down to one thing, that team was soft, and they broke down. You barely avenged the loss against, as you play Duke against Riley Leonard in a game that you should have lost. Offensive line played as piss poor as probably I've seen it. It was reminiscent of 2021. And honestly, it might have been as bad as 2007 at times. It was really, really a bad performance. Your receiving core is depleted, and your receiving coach is starting to reveal himself as a bit of an asshat. And the reason that I say that is because Tobias Merriweather was given his opportunity, but the point was mute. The point was mute. It was the fact that Chancey Stuckey, the cancerous way that he coaches, it showed itself in that room. All hamstring injuries. You got 4 guys out there that can't get open. Hartman's left with nothing. And Freeman has said it himself. We didn't put him in position to make plays. We didn't put our offense in a position to make the plays that they needed to. It was hero ball. It was hero ball that just came down to the simple fact that Notre Dame had better talent than Duke did. And that's really not a compliment, considering the fact that it's Duke. No disrespect. Obviously, you then drop the game against Louisville where you look woefully unprepared at every level. The coaching staff flinches yet again on offense, and they decide to do this wackadoo rotation at the offensive line, and they decided to install that on Thursday. That's fucking asinine. That's insane. And they showed up, and they just expected the fact that they're Notre Dame, they're going to show up to Louisville and just win. They looked burnt out. They looked like they didn't want to be there. The coaching staff didn't do what was needed to be done on offense to even be able to compete in that game. They got dominated. And making it even worse, every unit, no matter how good that unit is going to have a down night. And that down night was against Louisville for that defense. And you get embarrassed. Playoff hopes dash. Over. It's finished. You look embarrassing. That product was embarrassing. You come back and you kick the shit out of USC. Again, this is kind of like that trend, right? Like the back is against the wall. That's when that team responds. And it's usually a night game at home. The first 2 years, I think that's safe to say. Like, that's the big takeaway for me is like, man, when you really expect this team to just totally fold like a lawn chair, you're like, okay, I'm not even looking forward to this game. And then they go out and dominate, and then it gives you reason for hope. And then you get your heart broken again against Clemson, where you don't even get past the 50-yard line in the second half. And again, I know I'm overusing the word flinch, but the coaching staff flinches again and installs. Parker is asking Hartman, what do you like, what do you dislike as far as plays? It's what OCs do with their quarterback, always. Like, what do you like, what do you dislike? Hartman says, I hate this play, throw it out. It's this out pattern. And Parker decides to fucking call that play as they're, backed up at their own end zone, pick 6. No shit. It's just like, it's so dumb. And at that time, you just started to get this feeling. It was the antithesis of that 1993 clip that I showed you. It was the antithesis of Holtz in the big games, especially in the late 80s, early 90s era. Yeah, after 93, it started to fall off, but it was like, this team ain't going to win. There's no hope. There's no chance, man. We're not going to win. It's not going to happen. As a fan, you get defeated. I can only imagine what it was like to be a player on that team in 2023. It was because it was clear all hope was lost. And I know I'm kind of just rambling and running out like what happened, in the recent era of college football, but I promise you I have a point to this. I'm going to put a bow on it. And I know in that Ohio State game, I also missed the fact that DJ Brown, another senior, can't make the play. He can't pick a fucking gift off by McCord. Okay. Then you go into this stretch with, Pittsburgh, Wake Forest, Oregon State, and I know I'm missing another team where Notre Dame absolutely dominates. And believe me, guys, I understand that the competition wasn't there. I understand that the competition was no good. But guess what? I've seen a lot of Kelly teams play really, really shitty competition, worse than that. And they look like they smoked a collective bowl before the game. They literally just didn't want it. Like, they were just sleepwalking through a game. And then you could sleepwalk against Bowling Green and still beat them by 50. It's not saying much. No, you look back at those games, man, that's a different type of Notre Dame team. They were mentally prepared to play. They were dialed in. Look at the sideline. If I wish that there was a sideline cam for Marcus Freeman, because by all accounts, that dude was furious. Furious. Finally, someone that fucking gets it as a head coach. I didn't come here to dominate Pittsburgh. I didn't come here to dominate Stanford and Wake Forest. I came here to freaking beat Ohio State, get to the playoffs, and win the damn thing. You could feel it. It's this close. And now that brings us to this year. It goes back to what I said at the beginning. This is going to be a good team. If it's not a good team, I'll never follow Notre Dame football again. I fucking promise you, because everything that I know will be out the window. Or everything that I thought I knew, it'll be out the window. Now, this is going to be a very good team. But if they're going to be great, you have to not flinch. That shit has to go out the window. There is some Kelly residual that has been around this program that I underestimated. There's this just pervasive mentality that just to be there for Notre Dame is good enough in the modern era of football. It spits in the face of the standard that this program has, and that this program has proven can be fulfilled in the past. It hasn't been that long ago that Notre Dame was able to do that week in and week out and show themselves as like, hey, man, we're Notre Dame. It's harder to succeed here, but that's what makes us different, and that's what makes us better than you. That's kind of gone out the window, and that's died. And that residual has still lasted, especially through the Kelly era. When you get like 11 years of someone telling you that you don't deserve something, you start to believe it. And we've got bad blood with Kelly as fans for that reason. I definitely do. And it's something that I thought was just going to go away just because Marcus Freeman was there. But that has proven not to be the case. Even though Marcus Freeman has embraced South Bend and Notre Dame for its differences and for its unique challenge in this modern era landscape, and he's absolutely shown flashes of like overcoming that, it still is there. And you don't have to look any further than last year for that. Well, now you take one of the most talented teams that you've had at Notre Dame in quite some time, and your first test is against Texas A&M. And last year, this pains me to say this, last year, I think that this is a game that Notre Dame loses. And you're granted this test in week 1. And it's not because Texas A&M's a good football team, because I don't think that they are. I don't think that their defensive line is elite. As elite as what we're thinking they are. They're not world beaters. And I also don't think that our offensive line is as big of a concern as some other people might think it is. Just my take. I think that we're a lot better than what people understand. But all that aside, it's not about Texas A&M. It's about the moment that's at hand. It's a national stage. College game day is going to be there. It's a night game. It's going to be hot. Everybody's going to be drunk, including me. I'm going to be at the game. We're all going to be drunk. It's going to be loud. It's going to be obnoxious. It's going to be typical SEC bullshit. And you get an opportunity now to show that you belong. That you belong in these big moments. And you not only belong in these big moments, you rise to the occasion. There's going to be an opportunity to flinch. It might very well happen before kickoff. What I'm looking for is, does this team have the testicular fortitude to look that adversity in the face, rise to the occasion, and step up collectively and dominate this game? Not just win, dominate this game. That is going to tell me a lot about the fabric of this team and what the trajectory is going to be. I don't know if I expect that yet. I have to see it. Shamrock Energy, episode 3, ladies and gentlemen. I really, really appreciate you bearing with me for that rant. I understand that there's probably some inaccuracies there. I just had to get this off my chest, man. I've been really wanting to do this video for a while, for like the last week, and I just haven't had the ability to kind of like communicate it or portray it accurately. And I just decided, fuck the numbers, fuck the stat sheet, fuck the roster. You know, let's get rid of all the details. This is a big picture conversation. It's an existential conversation when you're talking Notre Dame football and what their performance has been at the big games. It goes a lot deeper than numbers. It's a mentality, it's a spirit. And if that spirit is alive and well, it will show itself in week 1. I promise you. Let's keep an eye on the vibe of this team. Let's see what we're hearing in summer workouts. I think that we're going to learn a little bit about this team's mentality. There's some players I'm looking for. We're going to talk more about that. We're going to get deeper into the details. I appreciate you hanging with me. I appreciate you pairing with the power surge. We pushed on anyways. Go fucking Irish. I can't wait to talk more about this team. Shamrock Energy, baby. We'll be in touch.